Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Event Hustlers. Today is a very exciting day because I get to interview someone who is considered, in my opinion, the ultimate interviewer. She has an amazing show that she does all kinds of amazing things. And we're actually signing on about a minute late today because we just got caught up chatting. There's so much to talk about. And then I thought we should go on air and talk about it on air. So Kiki, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I have known you since so early in my time in the events industry. When I first joined, I think I found you on Twitter, and I've been following your work for years and years. And I actually use you many times as examples of things to do or people to watch. I'll tell you more about that later.
Oh, I like that. That's awesome.
It's always been an inspiration to me in terms of how you connect people and you pursue your dreams and you build businesses. So I've always kind of kept an eye on you, but I would love for our audience to meet you. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then we can get into all the nitty-gritty details.
Oh, my heart is full. I don't know how I follow that up. So I'm Kiki L'Italien. I have a background in doing marketing and membership development for associations. Jumped into the dark side of doing consulting focused on digital strategy primarily for associations and nonprofits. But about 10 years ago, I also started, leading a conversation online called Association Chat using the hashtag #AssenChat, which, yes, I'm aware of what that looks like. And so 10 years later, that's going strong and is a podcast now. And these days, I'm very focused on talking about tribes and trust. So actually, how do you build communities and help them to stick together? And there's a lot to share, but that's it in a nutshell.
I love it. So how did you get started with all this? I mean, I think you have like a natural niche for marketing.
Yeah.
But how did you start your own company and decide this is something you really want to do?
Oh my gosh. I would never, ever, ever in a million years suggest anybody follow my personal path on how I started Amplified Growth. So Amplified Growth, I after being lured to the dark side, working for a consulting agency, working on technology development and, AMS selections and exciting things like that, I had a client who said, look, I will pay you your yearly salary to be your first client. You should go out on your own. And I thought, yes, for about a year, people have been asking me, when are you going to go out on your own? And so, Liz, you're such an awesome planner. And I am really embarrassed to admit to this, but I've come to terms with my true beginnings, the genesis of Amplified Growth. I went for it. I thought, you know what? I've got my year's salary. Every additional client I bring in will be additional money. Who wouldn't want that? So I went out without much of a plan on my own, which explains why it's taken a while for me to get things rolling in a strategic way on my business. Yeah.
I have to say, I mean, thank you for saying I'm a good planner, but my story is very similar. You just first of all, though, my story did not start with someone who was willing to pay me an entire salary to start the business. I started with 0 clients and no plan. And it has also taken me many years to start saying, hey, I should probably be a little more strategic here. So
perception is everything, though. And my perception of you, you always seem and I've seen you, I know your plans, you're very detail oriented. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad it looks like that from the outside.
Yay! Score. Yes.
One of the things that I have recommended people follow you, well, I've recommended tons of people to follow you, but one of the things that I say when I do that is when there are people who are looking to build their own brand or their own business, I always talk about how I love watching your evolution. I use this one video, you might have extra traction on it because I always share this video with people, where you were trying to figure out how to do the association chat daily briefings using the Alexa.
Yes.
And, I'm obsessed with technology. So I just love the idea that you kind of have built as you go You learn as you go, you perfect it. I think if you probably looked back at the stuff you did in the beginning compared to where you are now, there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I keep telling people that it's about that journey, that people like to be a part of that. And I have enjoyed being a part of that for you, to see like just how far you've come, and to not feel like you had it all together from the very beginning and you were some rock star, not that you
Yeah.
ever came across as not having it together, but it's so fun to watch people build over time. But
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think thank you so much for saying that. I believe that that's true, and I think that that's something I hear from people pretty regularly about. They're very thankful that I'm willing to be brave and go out and try things when they may fail. And especially with platforms and technology and stuff, they're happy to see somebody applying it and using it, and then they get ideas for what they can bring back, to their organizations. And that is really important to me, because I think all of my background and study and all of my passion, all of my talents and skills, it all drives toward the same place, which is just communication and really like being able to connect with people. And ultimately, I win if other people are able to communicate better with their people. So no matter what my title is or what I'm doing, I feel like I'm succeeding at what I'm here to do if people are somehow getting ideas, inspired, learning, and then able to apply that, and that generates better community for them.
Yeah. You talked earlier about building tribes and your interest in building communities and all the work you've done with Ask and Chat.
Ask and Chat, yeah, the most pornographic sounding hashtag out there.
I
Yes.
love it. What is your interest in building community, and how have you found that helped your business and helps obviously all of your client business as well?
For a long time, I was trying to figure out the through line of my sort of evolution in my career, and trying to figure out, well, I started out in marketing and then got more focused on building chapters out for associations. Because of that, I found that building communities online for global organizations made a lot of sense. That got me into the digital strategy world. And then I started focusing so much on social media and digital strategy, building community there, that I forgot kind of what that through line was. Like, what are all these things? How are they all tied together? And in the middle of it, there's speaking, and there's going out, and there's how does that connect to association chat and building a tribe? And that's been it turns out that community's kind of been there the whole time throughout my whole life. I started looking back at built my first club that I created when I was 9 years old, in third grade, and then the poetry slam that when I was the open mic night where I got paid in free beer when I was in college, and like all of these things that sort of, I've always really cared, even though I think of myself as kind of a loner. I've always really cared about bringing people together, and I think that especially now, my focus is I think that the onus is on me to figure out how I can take what I've learned about bringing people together. Even those of us who claim like we're introverts, we feel more comfortable texting than talking on the phone and all of that. And then I'm one of them. With more social isolation, with people who increase suicide rates, with people who are literally like, this is truly a life or death kind of thing. Um, all of our automation, Liz, like all of the stuff that we can teach people how to do to help them, a lot is getting lost in building trust and building real relationships between human to human, as we focus so much on just getting bigger. And we are, so many of us, associations, companies, brands, just people, we're forgetting about that investment that you have to make in building relationships for real, and so that's really why I'm focusing on that now. I feel like we're just having this crisis in community. And while there are a lot of books that are out there about building community, and a lot of them are great, great books, and they talk about different aspects of it and different approaches, I still feel like I have something that's unique and my own, through my own lens, to share, that people can use and then apply. And that's really why that's my keynote now. That's the book that I'm writing right now. That's really been a focus for me. And it's becoming more and more of a focus as I dig deeper into it.
It's so refreshing to hear a marketer talk about people, trust, relationships, tribes. I've read Seth Godin's book on tribes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a concept that's been out there, but yet when it comes to like a marketing strategy, it tends to go towards paid ads and
Yeah.
like a very non-human approach. But I am a firm believer, as you are, that if you bring people together and give them true human connections, and that can obviously happen in live events as it can happen in
Yeah.
online communities, that's what people need. I remember
Yes.
like when you and I first met, I feel like it was around 2007, 2008, and we met through the online community event profs.
Yep.
And
Yes.
I remember at that time there was so much conversation about whether digital events were going to just make
Wipe away. Yeah.
It's like, that's ridiculous. People want to connect with other people.
Yeah. It's so true. I do remember that. And, it's so refreshing not to have that be the argument, that suddenly like, people just have online. They don't have to get together.
Yeah.
And we all think that we laugh now, but it was very real concern at the time. I don't know. I think that, while every time people want to talk with me about expanding their reach and generating more engagement in the community, it seems like it's because they're trying to, and I love my clients and everything, but most often it seems like they're trying to drive or arrive at some sort of, this is going to change our bottom line. This is going to get more people to do something for us. And while I get that as a business owner, I understand what you're trying to get at. I think that, and Sheila, job security. I understand the need to drive to that, but you have to understand that as a human, if you're trying to get someone else engaged, it's a what's in it for them thing. I mean, like they have to get value out of it, and not just a value exchange. It's not just a transaction, it's a relationship. And so we're missing out in trying to, automate and scale. We're missing out on the one-on-one stuff. That what's the most effective way that, and this comes from research done on the decision to join, what's the most effective way to get somebody to join or engage or volunteer? The direct ask. You don't get that automated. The direct ask is a direct ask. That's me asking you, Liz, will you do this thing?
Mm-hmm.
If you sent out a bulk email to a bunch of people and said, come on my show, I wouldn't respond. But if you reached out and said, hey, what do you think about this? I'm gonna be like, yeah, Liz, I'm here. Like, sign me up. That is what I'm talking about. It's first of all, it's important to us as human beings to build those relationships. But secondly, it's not even effective if we don't take the time to build those relationships. So the automation's great, but we also need to not forget this human to human piece of it.
Yeah. And so much of it comes from your interaction with the world and your own passions and interests. And I can see, as you're talking, a lot of this interest of yours in community and tribe building has come from what you're seeing in the world. And it comes from the heart. It seems like it comes from things that really
watch out.
That's where the magic is, when you can tap into something that does leverage your business skills, but also really taps into your passions, your skills, the things that get you going.
Yeah.
That's place to be in business.
It's an awesome place to be. And I'm at this weird spot where it's like I suddenly put all the pieces together and now I'm like, ooh, I guess I figured that once I did that, it's not, I used to get hired all the time to go and teach, probably like you do, to like go and teach like social media strategy, or how do I build a campaign out for this, and it's like you go and you teach the process, or, you teach the tactics, and even if you teach the strategy, it's this one thing. But what is so important for me to do right now is connect it. Like, why does this matter? And how can you understand that each and every single one of us, in any role or job that we have, whenever we're responsible for bringing 3 or more people together, we have an opportunity there to make them feel like they belong. We have an opportunity to then build something bigger and better and make those relationships happen. It's I realized that back when I try to do really well at every job I have, but there was a job that I was almost fired from. And it was when I was in college and I got a job as a checkout girl at a grocery store. Okay. So have you ever brought a present to a checkout girl in a grocery store, or checkout guy? Have you ever created a relationship with a grocery store clerk, right? It's unusual. I haven't either, but I had regulars, and they would line up in my line to go through my line, and I would talk to them as they were going through, and I'd be like, yeah, so whatever happened with whatever, and I was like talking to them. And the reason I almost got fired was because my scan rates were so slow, because I had the lowest scan rates. All I remember is seeing like 35 written up on there. Each person was rated, and I had like the lowest. And they were like, if you can't get your item rate up, then you're gonna be fired. I'm like, I cannot believe that I'm about to be fired from a checkout girl job. But anyway, these people were going through, and I was taking the time to connect. And I look at that and I think I was losing because I almost lost my job, but I was also winning because I had something to leverage. I had relationships there I could leverage. There was a gay couple that brought me shoes. Like, they actually bought me a pair of shoes that they saw and thought of me. They found out, do you know your grocery store clerk's shoe size, right? Like, these are things that are weird. They're not customary. And that is the power of relationships. That is the power of building community. And that also goes to show you that no matter what role or job you have the power to build it. And so I just wish that it's so crazy. We have all of these beautiful tools, all of this technology, and we have people, who are young, who are saying that they can't think of one person they trust that they can reach out to if they have a hard time. They might be connected to thousands online, but there's not one person they trust to reach out to when, they feel like they need it the most. And we each can change that in even if you're a checkout girl in a grocery store. So
yeah, absolutely. And as you said, it's an opportunity, but Naomi also wrote, it's our responsibility. I think that's something that in the events industry in particular, we have to take very seriously. It's not just let's throw money and let's bring people together. There's a responsibility when you have that many people to allow them opportunities to connect, to create spaces for these things to happen, so that it's not only a nice thing to do. It's great for brands. It's really good for the company you're working
so good. People would ask me, why don't I promote my consulting work on Association Chat? And for years, I've had people who, are friends who've said well, you can promote, your consulting work. Everybody will understand. And I'm like, well, but that's not what that community is for. If I created one that was the Amplified Growth community, they'd know that, this is built around my consulting, but it's Association Chat. And so this is something that was born of holding space for people to come together to talk about these topics. Right.
Yeah.
And so Yeah, and Sheila, powerful story. You may have been someone's only human contact that day. Yeah, I mean, I remember those people, right? I remember those people that went through. And, each one of us can allow people to feel like they belong, even just at the smallest level. Liz, you and I, every marketer who's out there who knows how to use these tools, um, I think that you've always had the ability to connect with people really well. I've seen your interactions online. Our friendship, our relationship was built out of event profs and
Yeah.
stuff. So being human and using these tools to connect is something that you do well. But I think that a lot of times the people that we may work with, we can go and teach them how to use the tools, but it's very difficult to translate that into how do you then use those strategies, use those tools to build those relationships. And I think
Yeah.
this is the work that, I mean, I'm going to throw, like, I think all of us who are out there who are teaching this or know this well, I think we all are probably challenged right now to make that deeper connection for people so that they can understand, their role, their responsibility, and how to use these things to build greater community.
Yeah. And, a lot of people in the event hustler community are independent event professionals who are on their own. And I already mentioned that this kind of talk, building community, making these human connections, this is really good for business as well.
Oh, it's so good.
Um,
Yeah.
Big believer in the fact that if you have an audience and you can speak to that audience and make a relationship with them, and you don't consider it just an audience for you to blast marketing messages, but you actually consider them relationships, there's a lot of good that can come from that. But what would your advice be to people who are in that position, people like you and me who run our
Yeah.
own companies? How do they get that community going? Like, what role do they play in that?
Well, I think, okay, so one thing that you don't want to do is jump to the sale too fast, right? Like I feel, and even if you're like with all the funnel marketing and stuff that's out there, like building your funnels and stuff, that's fine. But it's like the you have to be very careful not to come off as like the multi-level marketer, slick, like, and before you go for 17.99, you have to show your intent in what you're trying to build that relationship for, and be honest. And the one platform or software or like, we can't go buy trust. We can't go buy it, and in a day with Facebook, with Cambridge Analytica and all of these tools, everything, GDPR, our information is not safe. People do not feel safe. They can get into a stranger's car, a la Uber, or stay
Yeah.
in a stranger's home, a la Airbnb. But building a relationship or trusting when they join your group that you mean what you say, that they can believe that you're not going to try to hook them into something immediately. You have to invest in the relationship a little bit, but it does pay off when you build that relationship. Those are the people who, 9 years later, I can tell you 10 years later, some of those people are the ones that are still going to be there for you. Every single talk you do, webinar you do, show you do, that will be there for support if you need them.
Yeah.
So that is something that is worth building because it's more reliable, and you're building loyalty, and you're building this, like Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans, you're building this steady group, solid foundation of people who support what you do.
And you made a good point that you can't buy trust. And I think another important thing for people to think about is you can't rush it. Everyone wants to get out there and be the next big thought leader and have thousands of followers. And that stuff takes time. I mean, you and I have been building this for a long time.
Yeah. It takes a lot of time. And once you do it, hate to say it, you're not done. I mean, like, trust is also something that you don't just get once and then it's like, okay, you're good. Like, you have to continue to earn it. And so to be trustworthy, there are tricks that there's this really awesome book I'm going to tell you about that is called The Confidence Game, right? The Confidence Game by Maria Konnikova. And she talks about what con men do to fast track trust, right? How do you, because people get fooled. They start trusting in the wrong people all the time. But what if we used that? What if we used some of those things to, in the early days, build really good, like we'll fast track through that part where it's like, you know, do you trust me? Do I trust you? We'll use some of those tools that you can use to like sort of the tricks that your mind will play to get to the good stuff, to like connect people with the really good stuff so that you're able to focus on building that relationship. So I think it's interesting because everybody does want to know how to fast track trust. And I think that if you use these tools for good and then continue to build those out over the long term, because you have to continue to build that relationship.
Yeah.
You'll get to that, the heart of it faster.
That's really interesting. I have to read that book.
It's interesting. Yeah. You know, I started looking for how to fast track trust, and there's not a lot out there. But if you think about who's doing it and doing it well, con men, you know, I mean, really, it's like the people who, how do you take somebody who's really, really smart and who makes really great decisions all the time, and they invest in somebody who they should have known better? How does that happen? And the most successful con men play off of different things, different manipulations on very basic sort of, you know, neurological impulses that we as humans have. And so if you were to use that power for good, then imagine how much more effective your communications would be. So like that's one avenue that I'm kind of exploring in this building community, because it's like, you know, some of those we do those naturally, Liz. You know, like some of us who have been building community for a while, we do those, and we maybe never thought of it as like, if I really wanted to fool somebody, I could use that way, right? But turns out, you know, that some of these things that we naturally do are teachable, and they're tactics that people use for nefarious reasons too.
That's so interesting. There's one person that I follow online who just does a very good job of presenting themselves very well. And they do a really good job of like speaking to the target audience and reeling you in. And it's someone who I always forward their emails back and forth with a few people, like, because once you've known them, you realize it's all a front. They don't actually believe anything they're talking about.
Oh my gosh, you have to send me. I know you're not going to call them out here, but you will have to text me. I'm so curious. Oh my gosh.
It has made me, I mean, we're talking, they get hundreds of thousands of dollars in sponsors, thousands of people to buy products and books and things. But if you actually know the person and anything about what they actually believe, there's no congruency there. But what you're talking about is taking the things they're doing that work really well, but actually having some heart behind it.
Yeah. I mean, like, what if you took those of us who are kind of, I think of myself as kind of stumbling through life, you know, like most of us are well-meaning and we're doing the best we can, you know. And what if you took all of our smarts, all of the things that we've learned, all of the like the things we feel, and then you thought, okay, so let me take these little ways that these people who are trying to trick others into believing them, you know, how can I use those so that people will be able to trust me faster or believe in me and not question and you know, maybe delay us moving on to this next piece that's so important for them. And it's not really manipulation. It's just understanding how the brain works and maybe looking at it from a different perspective. Because certainly people who use it for manipulation have learned, you know, they know these. So why can't the good guys know them too, you know?
I mean, it's essentially marketing. It's learning about how humans interact and speaking to them in a way that makes them want to do something.
Yeah.
That's smart marketing.
Smart marketing. Yeah.
So it's already been 30 minutes. I say,
my gosh.
I'm like, how does this happen every time? People have to connect with you. They have to follow you and watch your journey. What's the best way for people to learn more about you or to have this conversation extended?
Well, you can go to amplifiedgrowth.net and or associationchat.com and sign up on the mailing list. I also have a very unusual name. So if you just type in at Kiki L'Italien, and you don't even have to spell it right, you're going to find on most of the socials, it'll find me. So if you just start out on the right path, it'll give you the rest of it. But at Kiki L'Italien on Instagram, on Twitter, find me on Facebook. Happy to connect on LinkedIn if you just let me know, where and why. And yeah, I would love to connect with people. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Liz. This is so exciting.
Thank you. We have much more to talk about, but I really appreciate all the things you've shared. And it's good to know how your career started, but all of this that you're kind of working through today in your career. I think we all hit those points where you're like, there's something else here.
There's something else.
Strategy forever, but there's another piece that people are not getting. And it's a tough part of business, but it's an exciting time too, because it opens a lot of new opportunities for you if you can really tap into that passion.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more about that. I'm still trying to figure out how to, I'm just so tribes and trust focused on everything right now that, yeah, I need to finish the book, all of that. So more to come.
Yes. Let us know when the book comes out, of course, and let us know all the good things you're up to. And I'll, of course, share it on all the channels so people can find you.
Of course. Yay.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you who watched live. We'll be back every Tuesday at 10:30 Eastern. Actually, next week, we will not have a show because we're doing the virtual Event Business Summit. So if you have not signed up, you can sign up for free at eventbusinesssummit.com. It's all around how to build, grow, and market your event business. So definitely encourage you to check that out. And then we'll be back the following week at 10:30 Eastern for another show.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you, Kiki. I'll talk to everyone soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.